I want to introduce our first speaker. It's my honor and my pleasure to welcome back for the 6th year in a row our keynote speaker for the forum, the director of OSHA's Directorate of Enforcement Program, Scott Ketcham. He has had a significant change in his position since last year, so here's a quick update to his bio. Scott Ketcham has served as the director of OSHA's Directorate of Enforcement Program since June 2024. He previously served as the director of OSHA's Directorate of Construction and as deputy director from 2019 to 2024. Director Ketcham also served as an OSHA acting deputy regional administrator, area director, assistant area director, and compliance officer, and manager in regions across the U.S. He was a staff industrial hygienist with the U.S. Army Medical Activity for 5 years in Alaska and retired after 24 years of active and reserve service. Mr. Ketcham holds an MPA in Business Administration and Management from University of Alaska and a BS from Texas A&M University. Mr. Ketcham will be joining us here today via Zoom, so please join me in welcoming Director Ketcham to join us and speak a little bit about what's new at OSHA. Scott, can you hear us?
I can hear you just fine. Can you
Awesome.
hear me?
Yes, we can. Please take it away.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you, TJ. And it's always a pleasure to be here with the foundation and supporting our alliance and, just in support of crane safety in general. And so I'm pleased to talk with you about things that, as TJ mentioned, in my new role, but I'm stuck on construction. It's not going to get out of me. So I will continue to relate to the crane industry, the trenching industry, and other things, and you'll find that in my slides on this. So in my new role, I have operational control of enforcement within OSHA for enforcement operations other than construction. And so I work with my colleague, Tim Irving, who is the acting director of DOC right now, to ensure we are supporting construction safety from both of our offices. And he's a great colleague. And yesterday, I hope some of y'all were tuned in on that there was a ACOSH meeting yesterday talking about concerns within the construction industry. And so good information was shared yesterday in that ACOSH, and I hope you get to tune in on those when they have them. OSHA tries to have 2 ACOSHs in any fiscal year. I think this is the second for this year. I'm going to share my presentation with you now. It's about overall what OSHA is doing, but I do have some crane stories in there as well. I try to make my themes centered around things of interest to you, but I have some other things in there as well that OSHA is doing as a priority. So if you would let me know, hopefully you can see my presentation now. Okay, all right, thanks. So again, pleased to be here. I've always found it important to talk with the crane community and about crane safety. And I'm going to talk a lot about that in a few moments, but I'm going to talk about safety in general first. So our reality within OSHA, there are 15 fatalities every day. And this is our why. We every year remember those who lost their lives on the job. We call it Workers' Memorial. We stand out at the Department of Labor and we remember those who lost their lives in working conditions in the U.S. And every year we hold this event, and that number, as you can see on there, is pretty significant. 5,486 fatal work injuries were recorded. Now, that's 2022 data. BLS is 1 year behind. We'll have 2023 data here very shortly. But we remember this. This is our why. This is why we go out every day to try to prevent these needless tragedies. And we're constantly working on the art of prevention of these issues. So what I would like to say is that you can see since 1970, if you look at the slide going on down, that we've seen a downward trend from 1970 all the way through the 1990s to about 2009, and then 2010 through 2022, we have stayed stagnant. We have not really, maybe gone a little bit up during the COVID timeframe. But what I would say is that we're working hard to try to get these numbers to continually go down. There's too many fatal incidents in the country that there's a lot more prevention work to do. And so you can see we made good stead in the first 30 or 40 years of OSHA, and we've kind of gotten to a point where we're stagnant. We're trying to figure out ways that we can bring these needless tragedies down lower, with our end goal being zero. I mean, we would love to have the United States, our country, have zero fatalities at work, and that's our end goal. That's where we plan on moving to. So that said, starting off with fatalities, we also do a lot of operational support for national contingencies. And this year, we had two major events, hurricanes, Helene and Milton, that caused significant damage in the Southeast, and unusually, not just the Southeast, but into the heart of our country as well, North Carolina and Western Carolina and Tennessee. The damage there was significant, and we've had staff out there full time working on the recovery to make sure the recovery workers are safe. And you can see that we've removed people from workplace hazards. We've reached almost 3,000 workers who are doing support activities for the recovery. And we're trying to make sure that as the government responds on this, that we are doing it safely and that workers are protected while we are doing recovery activities. Now, this slide really goes around our resources and our reach. You know, if you read the slide here, basically it says that we have one compliance officer for every 89,000 workers. Realistically, we are not going to see every worker. We realize that we have significant resource issues when it comes down to our compliance staff and the size of OSHA. We're relatively a small agency. We have about, between any given different administrations, anywhere between 750 and 1,000 compliance officers across the nation, also aligned with our state programs who also have compliance officers. I'm just speaking for the federal OSHA side. But if you look at it, we have a labor force of almost much outnumbering the number of inspectors or COSHOs that we have. So we've got a daunting task, so we need to work with stakeholders and work with communities to make sure that we're getting our message out on how to be safe, how to keep workers safe, and how to get the job done in a safe manner where everybody goes home at the end of the day and returns home to their family for another day. And so we average about almost 3,000 inspections each month between those 800 or so compliance officers that we have. So we're out there. We are out there in the communities. We try to be strategic in the inspections that we're doing. Having come from construction, DOC, before coming over here to enforcement programs, we had about 52% of all OSHA's inspections are done performed in the construction industry trades year after year. It's because the hazards in the construction industry are significant, and they lead to significant risk, which leads to incidents that cause injuries and fatalities. So we are going to continue to focus in on the construction industries, and we'll talk a little bit about that further on. But you can see on this slide our overall inspections that OSHA does. You can see a dip there in 2020, 2021, where COVID unfortunately limited our ability to get out and do the amount of inspections that we were doing. But I will say that generally, since I've been with the agency, we've averaged between 30,000 and 40,000 inspections. Obviously, I go back before 2013. But the thing about it is we're trying to make sure that when we do these inspections, they're impactful, and that we're making impact to try to reduce injuries, illnesses, and fatal incidents. So you can see on this slide here, the number on the top, the bar is about the total inspections that OSHA has completed. The blue are unprogrammed incidents, like, for example, complaints, fatalities, and other things that were not programmed. We didn't plan on doing them, but they happened. And then programmed inspections are on the bottom. And you can see we're struggling. We are increasing our total amount of programmed inspections in the last few years, but unprogrammed activities keep us certainly busy as an agency. The red numbers on the bottom represent the fatalities in each one of those years. And that's the total fatalities that OSHA investigated where we had jurisdiction. Now, back to our vision. You know, we want workers to have access to good jobs, but we also want to have a good, safe, and healthful job. And so we believe that these 5 elements, collaboration, respect, innovation, diversity, listening to the voice of the workers, and using safety and health as a core value will lead to health and safety as a core value. And it's something that we think will make a difference in getting the culture moving in the direction where it's unacceptable to have incidents, injuries in your workplace. It's unacceptable to have a fatality. I mean, I think I know we all agree on that about needless injuries and death in the workplace. And we need to make sure that we get this core value out there, that when you start a business, that you need to do certain things to make sure that you are profitable, you're doing your business in a good manner, but you're doing it in a safe manner, providing good, safe work for workers out there. Now, to the construction side of my presentation is, I'm going to focus on engineering in this case. And we do quite a bit, DOC does quite a bit of, and we as an agency do quite a bit of reconstructive events after construction incidents that involve engineering quite often. And our Office of Engineering Services focuses quite a bit on demolition and activities involving building structures, bridges, construction of bridges, platforms, cranes, comm towers, a variety of things that they do. And you can see on the right side, those are some of the incidents that we've investigated. The one on the right was, on the top right, was a fatal incident off of the coast of North Carolina. Demolition activity, removing an old roadway and going over obviously over water, where a crane collapsed. A crane dropped a piece of material on a worker, resulting in that worker dying. On the bottom left is a picture of a wood truss structure that we investigated over in the center of America that involved a fatality as well, where I believe they were 120 feet or maybe 150 feet wooden trusses that weren't adequately tied together, that were being supported by a crane while they were tying it together, where they failed. And you can see all the trusses fell down. Unfortunately, there were workers working down underneath that, and multiple injuries and several fatalities as well. So let me talk a little bit more about this. We do have some engineering incidents that we get involved in. This particular incident involved a tower crane that collapsed. This did not result in any fatalities. There were 4 injuries, but this, obviously, I don't have to speak to the crane community. You can see the picture. You can see that the tower crane is in a position that's not normal for a tower crane, to say the least. And these things unfortunately happen, and we are out there investigating. So obviously there were some footing issues with this crane installation before it toppled. You can see from these pictures here what the issues were that we evaluated, and this did result in citations to the contractor. Several contractors who were engaged in the activity of this construction activity. So this was something that I thought might be of interest to you. Many of you may be aware of this or have seen pictures of this, but I thought I'd share it. These are photos taken by the compliance officer. Now, obviously, I have zoomed them in a little bit on the previous one because I didn't want any names or anything revealed in the photograph that I'm presenting. These particular incidents are something that we really, really want to make some impact on. Truss collapses. Why am I bringing this up to the crane community? Because each one of these trusses were flown in by a mobile crane. I don't believe on any of these there was anything like a tower crane engaged at all. These were all mobile cranes where trusses were flown in. The trusses were secured and continuation of the process. But I'll show you, you can see from these pictures, obviously there were massive failures that led to fatalities. There were numerous fatalities in these, and these were not in just one area. These were across the nation. I mentioned the first one was in mid-America. Several of these here were down in the Southeast, and each one of them, unfortunately, resulted in loss of life. So we've had, over the last 5 or 6 years, more than 20 collapses of long-span wood trusses and involving fatalities and severe injuries over the past 5 years. And each one of these have resulted in citations, and the commonality in it is not the crane. I want to make this very clear, not the crane. The commonalities in this was the contractor's final securement of the load and tying them together in a manner where they would not collapse. And so the reason I'm showing you this is many of you might have done these type of operations where you're lifting trusses, especially long trusses, and it's important that they secure them properly. And there might be something that you see at some point where you go, wait a minute, that doesn't look right. And I'll show you kind of what the standard is. And each one of these was not a crane citation. It was a citation under Section 5A1 of the Act for means and methods of construction. And so there are several standards that we look at, including the International Building Code. And the situation is mainly due to inadequate temporary bracing. And so this is something you could probably see or may see as a crane operator where it looks like they're not bracing at all. And these types of scenarios can lead to massive failures that lead to serious injuries and death of construction workers. And in many of these cases, it was people who were inside there on down the way. Some of these one of them was a wood barn structure where they were far away from where the crane load was being handled. And because the material wasn't secured, it flipped all the way down and went down like dominoes and killed people at the very end of the structure. So this is something that is significant, and we've seen a trend in this. So we're just sharing it with the community here. Now, we mentioned international building codes. There are building codes that talk about how to secure these. I don't expect you to know this in the crane community, but share this with people who are working on and loading and unloading or part of the process of moving material to where their final destination will be and its securement. This can prevent needless fatalities. And these guides actually give you the information on how to secure it so that we don't have these needless incidents. Now, what we've learned is the owner of the structure is 99% of the time is unaware of the issue. The engineer of the record doesn't design the temporary bracing. The contractor on site does that. And so the truss designer obviously wasn't involved. So it's the contractor, the final contractor that you see when you are offloading these trusses and putting them into their final site of destination that are responsible for securing these wood trusses. And if it's not done right, it will lead to more needless incidents involving multiple people being injured and or killed. So that was one example. I did want to talk with you about the number of crane-related struck-by incidences that have led to fatal incidents. And you can see that the number is going down significantly, which is good. The end goal, we want 0 fatalities related to struck-by incidents. You can see that that number is going down with 7 in 2022. 2022 was the last data that we received from the BLS. In 3 more weeks, I will be getting the data for the 2023 fatal incidents, and I'll do a follow-up with CCO Foundation on that. A couple weeks from now, I'll have an idea about how many more struck-by related incidents involving cranes that have occurred in 2023. We will continually be a year or a year and a half behind on this data. This is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and we are getting an update here very shortly on this. So, hospitalizations and amputation reports related to moving objects with cranes. This is information that came from the OSHA information system from our own inspections. So you can see that the number is going up a little bit since 2021 on hospitalization reports. And it seems like the number of amputations caused by moving equipment from one location to another, where has resulted in an amputation, also saw an uptick in 2023. We're looking at 2024 data now in our OSHA information system, but you can see amputations and hospitalizations do occur as a resultant of a struck-by incident involving moving objects by crane. Now, overall priorities that OSHA has as an agency, these are some of them. I couldn't give you all of them, not in the time frame that I had, but I highlighted ones that I think were of interest to the construction community as a whole and to your industry. Heat, falls, silica exposure, trenching incidents, PPE fit as a rulemaking, and then finally, mental health. These are big picture things, and there are others that we could discuss as well at some other time, but these are the ones that I thought were pertinent to your audience today. So what are we doing on heat? Well, we just released a notice of proposed rulemaking on heat that went out, and the text was released in July of 2024. But we've been working on trying to notify industries, many industries, not just the construction industry, about the hazards of heat since 2011. You've probably heard water rest shade. Water rest shade was our initial project that we had engaging industries about heat starting in 2011. In 2022, we initiated a national emphasis program for heat. I'm going to go over some data in a minute on things that we're doing. We are looking at heat. You'll see on the next slide that we are doing quite a bit of inspections to ensure that workers are aware and workers are not being exposed to heat hazards without training and other activities to make sure that it's done safely in spite of the heat. So you can see since 2022 through 2024, we've done almost 7,000 inspections where we have coded it as being heat related in our national emphasis program. A lot of it is programmed, some of it is unprogrammed. We do get complaints, we do get fatalities. You can see that there were, in these last 3 years, there were 151 heat-related fatalities that OSHA responded to. There were, I'll repeat it again, there were 151 workers who died as a result of being exposed to excessive heat over the last 3 years, from 2022 through 2024. So we are doing what we can on the rulemaking side and on the enforcement side to make sure we're looking at heat hazards, including the construction industry trades. Now, we're also focusing on falls. We've had a national emphasis program out for falls for 2 years now, effective May 2023, and a year and a half. But we've always had one. We've had one for quite some time affecting the construction industries, but we've added all other injuries industries as well in 2023. So my office in enforcement programs is looking at general industry, maritime, agriculture to make sure that people are not being exposed to falls there as well, and using this national emphasis program to prioritize our work in that particular area. Unfortunately, too many workers die from falls, and they're not all in construction. A good amount are, but one is too many. So we're putting our priority in there to make sure that we're addressing fall hazards in all industries. We're also addressing silica, and I'll go through this real quickly. I don't know how much interest the crane community has in silica, but there is something out there now called engineered stone, which is 95% crystalline silica, which we are really focusing on, and I'll tell you why. People are workers are developing silicosis much earlier in their working career than expected. And we were following that trend. Why would these workers be having double lung or lung replacement surgeries and stuff like that? What is the key going on here? And we found out that there's a strong request out in the residential area and in commercial as well for engineered stone, which is a product that is widely sought after. And there's a lot of places out there that are not protecting workers accordingly for this hazard. And we've found that trend, and we're really, really emphasizing on engineered stone. When I say earlier, I'm talking like after, traditionally, when we passed the silica rule, we determined that over a working life of a worker who was exposed to silica, that it would take upwards of 20 years for them to, of exposure, to develop symptoms that were relative to silicosis. And now we're looking at 2 or 3 years with this engineered stone. It's significant. I'm not a data scientist, so I kind of gave a generalized viewpoint on this. So if I'm inaccurate about 20 years versus 25 or 30 years, I'm just telling you it's significant, the difference between this engineered exposure and people developing pneumoconiosis or silicosis that includes having surgeries to remove their lungs and have lung replacement surgery. It's serious. So we're doing quite a bit on this. Now, you can see that the majority of this we're looking at in the construction industry trades, but you can see on the manufacturing side, there has been an uptick in our focus on the manufacturing side for manufacturers who are manufactured engineered stone products. The installation side is typically what we would consider a construction activity. So we're focusing on both ends, who's making it and who's installing it, so that we can adequately ensure that we're protecting workers. We're also doing news releases on this and other methods to make sure we get the message out to the industries. Now, the next topic I want to talk about is trenching. And I'm not happy with the fact that we've had any fatalities in trenching, but I will say over the years, I've talked to you about trenching fatalities and how one year we had an aberration in the industry, which was 39 fatalities, calendar year 2022. We had 39 workers who were killed. We put in a OSHA focus on trenching, where we did thousands of inspections involving trenching, and we accentuated it with a ton of outreach. And so you can see in calendar year 23, we saw a reduction, and this year, even further reduction. We're going to continue to do that, continue to support it to try to get it down to 0. We really put forth an effort on, and I can tell you that there are several members in the audience today, I know, that contributed to this. So I want to thank you. I know many stakeholder groups. I know the IUOE helped us with this, with trenching. They provided training for our COSHOs on trenching and cranes. We've always received support from CCO involving these and the foundation for these types of things. So OSHA didn't do this alone. We did it with you. We did it with stakeholders, and we made a difference. And hopefully we'll see that that trend continue to go further down. On the rulemaking side, you're going to see a rule coming out which requires in the construction industry for PPE to fit. I know this sounds, I've talked to you about this before, but this is the final rule. It will be coming out hopefully here soon, and it will be a final rule. We received some comments. We've finalized those comments, and we have a final rule that will be out here very shortly. So we're excited about that as well. Now, the last priority that I had on the list was, and it's not the last or the least, workplace mental health. We are focusing on worker mental health, including our own. I mean, think about it. When we go out in the workplace, some people are not happy to see us. I realize that. And many times we're going to situations, and I can tell you myself, where we feel where PTSD might actually be an issue, because I can tell you, I've never forgotten a fatal incident that I had that I investigated when I was much younger in the agency, and remembered seeing it was a fire where unfortunately a digger derrick dug into a 18-inch gas line, and it killed the operator on the digger derrick. And I remember seeing what used to be a wonderful man, human being, reduced to, well, we'll just say, I'll just say that it's traumatizing to see those kind of things and to investigate it. So I'm just one of many people who are compliance officers across OSHA. We investigate fatalities, and that kind of stuff does leave its mark with you. It leaves its mark. And so what I would say is workplace mental health, not only for the industry, but for us. And so I can't stress enough how important it is to take a moment, take a break, to realize that we need to back each other up. If you see something, say something. If somebody has an issue and they're looking like they're struggling, you might very well make a difference in that person's life that may save a life. And so the human side of our business, just remember that we need to be together. We need to look out for one another to make sure we're protecting one another from things that you can't visibly see, but might be going on in their mind. And when you recognize those things, usually they give symptoms of the types of, issues that they're struggling. And just remember that it's important that we deal with people in a manner that helps them, to be helpful, to be human with them, and try to understand what's going on. And you may very well save somebody's life or make them feel more committed to you as an organization and to you as a leader within the organization. So I just think that it's important to take this note to remember it's not just about suicide, but it's also about worker mentality. And worker mentality also affects safety in the same manner. So we're taking it very seriously within OSHA, and our hope is that you will as well. Now, on the compliance assistance side, we have compliance assistance specialists all across America. They're doing on-site consultation visits. We have a VPP program. We also have an alliance program, of which two members in the audience are CCO and CCO Foundation, as well as IUOE. And there may be others out there from AGC and other organizations. CPWR, one of our panelists on this, is an alliance member. Jessica, I'm not going to forget you. So we have plenty of work out there working together with business, the communities, with unions, across the board. We're interested in working with folks to keep them safe. And so that's probably the most important message I can give you today. Outside of the enforcement stuff that I'm sharing, we're out there to help you help workers be safe. And whatever we can do to help you, we're interested in that. We're also looking at language accessibility. So many times we investigate incidents where the language of the worker is not the language of many others in the community. And so we are looking at language accessibility as a means of communicating with different communities, and involves interpretation services and other things that's very helpful to OSHA and to the community. I did want to mention that we are proud to be alliance partners with CCO Foundation and the IUOE, who are, I'm sure are in the audience today, or members of it are. And our focus is on crane certification, crane safety, and trenching safety as well. And I can tell you, TJ, Tom, Chris Tremmel, you guys have done a tremendous amount of work with us, and we're very appreciative of it. And we really do appreciate being alliance members with you. And I mentioned CPWR. We're always doing stuff with CPWR for the construction community. So CPWR as well. Now, if you follow us, I put a few QR codes on this, and I'm going to give the slides out to you. So if you want to follow us, you can get us on QuickTime, Twitter, and LinkedIn. There's all kinds of ways to follow us, and I'll send this over to you if you're interested. We also put the links if you're a linker, as opposed to a QR code. I'm not much of a QR code person, but I know some people in the audience are. So we're trying to make that tweak to make sure that we give it. And I'm going to end this with something we have in common. All workers have a right to a safety and health work environment. We have that in common. We want to make sure workers go home and everyone on the work site goes home safe at the end of the day to go back to their families. And I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Director Ketcham. We do have time for one or two questions. We do have Emily and Tara have a microphone, so if you've got a question, please raise your hand for a question for Director Ketcham, and we're happy to bring the microphone around so you can actually he can hear you. No questions from the audience at all. That's surprising. Come on. What? There's a question right there. Hold on. Let me get you a mic. You got to turn it on at the bottom. There you
go. Sir, do you have a shared version of these slides so companies can share as a safety topic conversation? You had some good information on there.
I will share these slides. No question about it. I'll send them to TJ, and he can send them to the attendees on this.
Thank you.
No worries at all.
Definitely. I'll make sure to do that. I appreciate that. Other questions from the audience? All right. I think you're all too shy this morning. But I appreciate your time, Director Ketcham, and you being here with us. And we, again, always appreciate you coming here and speaking to the audience, sharing the latest information. So we will, if there's follow-up questions, I'm sure they'll send them to me and I can send them on to you. But as always, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all, TJ. My pleasure. And I would say I would prefer to be in person. I can't right now due to it's in the beginning of the fiscal year. OSHA has our budgetary process, and October is a tough month for me to get out. So my apologies for that. I have made a couple of them, and I've always enjoyed it, TJ.
Well, no worries, and I don't know if you can hear, but we'll give you a round of applause virtually over the thing. Everybody, thank you.
Thank you.